The St. Louis Blues stave off elimination with a dramatic overtime win over the Colorado Avalanche. We've got that plus our top 5 candidates for the Conn Smythe Trophy. All that and more coming up on this episode of the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, so glad to be with you today. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Adam and Chris, not able to make it. I am happy to be in to sub for them, and hopefully they'll be back next Thursday with their regular Thursday show. But we have got a lot to discuss on today's episode. What a dramatic finish in the game between the St. Louis Blues and the Colorado Avalanche. The Blues staving off elimination in dramatic fashion. And I'll tell you, this is such a seesaw game. Colorado off to the early 3-0 lead, and it looks like that's it. The Blues are going to be finished. And yet they come back and tie the game with only 4 minutes and 46 seconds left in regulation. Then Nathan MacKinnon goes with a highlight reel goal, scores what looks to be the go-ahead goal, his third goal of the game to complete the hat trick. But 2 minutes later, with time almost out, Robert Thomas ties it. And then in overtime, Tyler Bozak with the dramatic game winner, a blast from just inside the blue line that finds its way home, and the St. Louis Blues with a big comeback. Look, you overcome the 3-0 deficit, then you overcome the late highlight reel goal by MacKinnon, and then you win it in overtime on the road. A very impressive performance, gritty performance by this St. Louis Blues team in a series that really has had a little bit of everything. And look, Robert Thomas's tying goal, the latest tying goal when staving off elimination in the history of the St. Louis Blues, 56 seconds left on the clock at the time of the goal game winner in overtime. 3 minutes and change into the extra session. So now this series shifts back to St. Louis for game 6. The Avalanche still have 2 more chances to eliminate the Blues. But like I said, we're back in St. Louis now for game 6. So that certainly gives the Blues a little bit of a jolt emotionally. And then the question becomes, how much momentum does St. Louis get from this dramatic win, and how does it affect the Avalanche? Colorado is a team that has disappointed in the postseason the last couple of years, and if you're an Avs fan, you have to hope they're not sitting there in the back of their mind saying, oh no, here we go, it's deja vu all over again. The key now is for Colorado to not be traumatized by this dramatic loss and to get back and play a smart road hockey game, while for the Blues, just an unbelievably electric win that absolutely gets them back in the series. And look, if you're the Blues, you got to be saying, hey, if we can win game 6 at home, you get it to a game 7, anything can happen. Now we've got 2 games on tap for tonight. The Rangers visiting the Hurricanes. That's a 7:00 Eastern time start. And then at 9:30, the Edmonton Oilers are in Calgary to take on the Flames. Oilers up 3-1 in that series, looking to close it out. Flames trying to hold on at home and force a 6th game. Meanwhile, for Carolina and the Rangers, they're even at 2-2, and the home team has won every game that Carolina has played in the playoffs this year so far. And if you're the Hurricanes, you got to hope that that continues. It has been an unbelievably exciting first 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we will see whether or not Edmonton can close things out tonight and who takes that big 3-2 edge in the series between the Rangers and the Hurricanes. And obviously, anytime a series is even at 2-2, that 5th game becomes huge. And if you're the Rangers and you win it, you get a chance to close it out at home in Game 6, whereas Carolina would put the Rangers with their backs up against the wall if they find a way to be triumphant in Game 5. And there's also, I think, a certain psychological component to it. Holding serve in your own building. The Hurricanes haven't lost a playoff game in their home arena this year. And that is a big deal. And if they win tonight, they'll have the first 7-game home win streak of any team in NHL history in the playoffs, dating back to since the Blackhawks did it in 2014. Meanwhile, Teuvo Teravainen, he has gotten a point in each of the 6 home games that Carolina has played. 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. If he gets a point tonight, he will set a record for the longest playoff opening home point streak in the history of the Hartford Whalers / Carolina Hurricanes. So this is going to be an exciting night of hockey without a shadow of a doubt. And, let's add one more sort of factor for Nathan MacKinnon. He has the hat trick last night, now has 80 career playoff points. He did that in 59 games. That ties him with Sidney Crosby for 4th fastest player to 80 playoff points. Wayne Gretzky did it in 37 games. Mario Lemieux in 40. Jari Kurri in 57. You're in pretty darn elite company when you're mentioned with Gretzky, Lemieux, Kurri, and Crosby. So congratulations to Nathan MacKinnon on that accomplishment. Now, we have got a lot more to discuss on this episode of the Locked On NHL podcast. The Conn Smythe Trophy. Who are the favorites as of right now? We'll discuss our top 5. All that and more still to come on this episode of the Locked On NHL podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. We've been asking and Built delivered. Built granola bars are here. Built granola bars come in 3 unbelievable flavors. I love the chocolate peanut butter. There's also chocolate coconut and white chocolate berry. And if you want to try all 3, you can get a mixed box at built.com right now. These are so different from the bars and the puffs. Built granola bars are loaded with granola. It's the perfect combination of crunch and chewiness. But just like bars and puffs, these babies are packed with protein and covered in 100% real chocolate. With only 150 calories, 15 grams of protein, and only 4 grams of sugar, Built granola bars will change your world. Built has cracked the code to better granola, the perfect healthy snack to put in your lunch, take on the road, or just eat as a snack. And because they're made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently, it provides tons of health benefits. So go to Built.com and get Built granola bars now. If you use the promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So the Conn Smythe Trophy, it is awarded each year to the most valuable player throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. And it's always sort of tough to predict because 99% of the time, you got to know which team won the Stanley Cup in order to determine who is going to win the Conn Smythe. Now, I know occasionally a player from a losing team will win the Conn Smythe Trophy, I think of Reggie Leach back in 1976. The Canadiens beat the Flyers in the Stanley Cup final, but Reggie Leach had such a record-setting playoff year that he ended up winning the Conn Smythe. But it doesn't happen all that often. And so when you look at the top five that I put together for today's episode, you have to take into account that you're looking at who is favored to win the Stanley Cup. So, for example, players on the Calgary Flames down 3-1 right now in their second round series. Tough to put them in the top five right now, regardless of how well they're playing, because, the odds of them getting to the conference final are not so strong, let alone for them to go on and then win the conference final, win the Stanley Cup, and have a player who will be a Conn Smythe finalist. Now, it could happen. Certainly, we've seen comebacks before, but overall, you got to figure that you're looking at players who have, are on teams that have the best chance to win the cup. So at number 5, as of right now, is Tampa Bay Lightning right wing Nikita Kucharov. And Kucharov is such a dangerous player. Health has been sort of an issue for him. He only played 47 regular season games this year, but amazingly, 25 goals, 69 points in 47 games, 44 assists in 47 games. That is, Gretzky-esque, let's say, or Lemieux-esque. And here is a guy that if the Lightning go all the way, he has got to be considered a candidate. So far in 11 playoff games through the first 2 rounds, 4 goals and 15 points, 11 assists in 11 games. That certainly gives Kucharov a pretty nice leg up on a lot of the other candidates. And look, he has had playoff success before. The Lightning have won back-to-back cups. He had 34 points in 25 games in 2020 and 32 points in 23 games a year ago. So again, you got to figure that if Tampa Bay goes all the way and three-peats, and that would make them the first team to win 3 straight Stanley Cups since the New York Islanders did it in 80, 81, and 82, you got to think that Nikita Kucherov would be one of the top candidates to do it. And he can beat you in so many ways. He can score goals, but really passing is his strong point. And, you look back at the last time he played a full 82-game season, and that was in 2018, 2019, 41 goals, which is elite goal scoring territory, and 87 assists. That was a 128-point season. The fact that his scoring ratio barely tails off in the Stanley Cup playoffs, I think is very telling when it comes to Nikita Kucherov. He is dangerous. He is smart with the puck, has excellent vision. And I think when you look at it, Kucherov, if the Lightning are going to win the Stanley Cup, he's going to be one of the definite players that's going to figure in to the equation. So that is definitely part of it. Now, the fourth candidate, to me right now, Connor McDavid. The Oilers up on the Flames right now, 3-1, so they're 1 win away from reaching the conference final. And so far in 11 playoff games, Connor McDavid has 6 goals and 25 points. Now, that's 19 assists in 11 playoff games. So McDavid just lighting it up so far this year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Look, he scored 44 goals and 123 points this year in 80 games. This is really only his second big playoff run in his career. He had a 13-game playoff appearance in 2017 with the Oilers, had a respectable 5 goals and 9 points. The Oilers, he only played in 4 playoff games the last 2 years as Edmonton struggled. But now, this year, for the first time, he is truly having a breakout performance in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And when you got better than 2 points per game and almost 2 assists per game through 11 playoff contests, you're in the driver's seat as a candidate for the Conn Smythe. So if Edmonton goes all the way, and it won't be easy, they still have to eliminate Calgary and then get past the Colorado-St. Louis winner. But if Edmonton goes all the way, Connor McDavid has got to be at the top of the list as far as players who you would think would be favored, and he is our number 4 candidate for the Conn Smythe Trophy as of right now. As for third place, we're going to go goaltender, and it's rare that you're not talking about a goalie in this competition, so let's make sure we've got one. Sticking with the Tampa Bay Lightning, Andrei Vasilevskiy has got to be considered a candidate for the Conn Smythe if this team wins. So far, he is 8-3 in the playoffs, a 2.22 goals against average, which is a quarter, it's 0.27 goals per game less than what he had in the regular season, and his save percentage, a .932. That is 0.16% better than his regular season. Here's a guy who has already won 2 Stanley Cups, is considered one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League, and is off to a great start. And to see his numbers be that much better in the playoffs than in the regular season, look, we've talked about how good the Lightning are and how experienced they are after winning 2 straight Stanley Cups. Vasilevskiy turns his game up a notch. He turns it up to 11 when the stakes are the highest. He's doing that again this year, and the Russian goaltender has got to be considered. To me, one of the top 5. I put him at 3rd in the race for the Conn Smythe Trophy. Again, Tampa Bay already into the conference final, awaiting the winner of the Rangers Hurricanes series. So should be an interesting one. But to me, Vasilevskiy, number 1 goalie in the Conn Smythe race as of now, and my number 3 overall candidate. We still have 2 candidates left to consider. So let's see if you can figure out who they are and whether or not you agree with them. But that and more still to come on this episode of the Locked On NHL podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number 1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs. For example, you could bet on who you think is going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, 2 more candidates right now for the Conn Smythe Trophy, number 2 and number 1. And we'll go defenseman with the number 2 pick. And it'll be Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche. Hard to believe he is still only 23 years old. This is his 4th trip to the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's been in the league only 3 years. 28 goals and 86 points. Pretty impressive for a forward. For a defenseman in 2022, that is off the charts. And that scoring prowess has carried over into the Stanley Cup playoffs. 9 games so far, 3 goals, 10 assists. That's 13 points from the blue line for Cale Makar. And it goes beyond just goals and assists with Makar. He is more than adequate in his own zone, but more importantly, the way that Makar is able to make his teammates better, set them up with scoring chances, and control the flow of the game to a large extent. All of those factors are important when you look at what Cale Makar brings to the table. And the Avalanche have been one of the best teams in hockey for the last 3 years, and seeing Makar mature and pick up the pace of his game over the last 3 seasons has been a part of that journey. This year, again, the Avs, one of the favorites to win the cup, and the way Makar is playing, the way that he is able to move the puck and create and still play solid defense, he definitely deserves to be considered to be one of the top candidates for the Conn Smythe Trophy this year. My number one pick right now, I've got to say, is Nathan MacKinnon, the center for the Avs. 9 games so far, just coming off that hat trick last night that we were talking about earlier. And we talked about him reaching that 60-point, the 80-point rather mark in his playoff career. 8 goals in 9 games, 13 points in 9 games. Very impressive. And let's face it, between Makar and MacKinnon, those are the 2 players that make the Colorado Avalanche go more than anybody else. Now, in the regular season, he only played 65 games. Injuries were a factor. Still had 88 points in 65 games, 32 goals, 56 assists. He could beat you in so many ways. He's got the speed. He's got a good shot. He is good at setting up his teammates. And on the power play, he will make you pay. The former first overall pick in the 2013 NHL entry draft has not disappointed. And right now, he is, to me, the favorite at this point in time for the Conn Smythe Trophy as we approach the halfway mark of the Stanley Cup playoffs. It'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out as we head down the stretch. I want to thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Again, I'm Gil Martin. It's been a pleasure to fill in for Chris and Adam. Hopefully they will be back next Thursday to do their regular spot on the show. I will be back tomorrow with Rachel Donner of Locked On Flyers for the Friday edition as we preview all of this weekend's action, and I'm looking forward to doing that show in the morning. So make sure you tune in for that. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Love to hear your feedback as to who the favorites are for the Conn Smythe Trophy. And thanks for listening to the Locked On NHL podcast.